This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Hello. We are fired up on a Football Friday as we welcome you into Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you for the next 2 hours. Some new digs for both of us today. JVT still out in Vegas, but at the D. Meanwhile, I'm in another hotel as well, this time in Lubbock, Texas. I'll be courtside tomorrow, JVT, for tomorrow's Texas Tech Houston game. I just got back from the Red Raiders practice. It was a little bit of a mad dash to be here. I'm a little out of breath from running from the car, but we made it. How are you this morning?
I'm good. I am a little bit of, I guess you could call myself a dog when it comes to this, in that I like to chase the garbage truck. And in these sort of scenarios, I thrive. I really like the live environment, people around me, within feet of me, filling out cards for parlays, watching these college games that are on right now, or the Australian Open. So I might be a little distracted. You also might hear some cheering, but I am here. I am ready to go. These are my people, even though in the camera shot right now, they're only showing like one guy.
How much video poker will be played when we get off the air today?
A little bit. I mean, maybe. You'll see. I do have cash in my pocket, and it was it was taken out maybe for a reason or two. I got some time to kill after the show, so I might donate to the coffers of Derek Stevens' company.
You came prepared, and that's what I appreciate most about you. We do have a really good show on deck, lots to get to, including a stacked guest list. So, producer Justin, if you would, let's hit it with the rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
I was not kidding. We are loaded on the guest front today in the best way possible. Beginning in 30 minutes, we will have VSiN's own Will Hill join the program. Then at 11:45 Pacific, 2:15 Eastern, Mike Palm joining JVT live over there at the D. Of course, VP of Operations at the D, Golden Gate and Circa. Then we will have Dave Ross, VSiN host, VSiN by the Books, break down the first card of the year with UFC 324, which should be fun. Justin Gaethje and Patty Pimblett in the main event. And then your boy, Zach Cohen, joining us in hour two to break down a ton of NBA.
Yeah, usually I'm very excited for our usual trio of guests here on a Friday, but I'm oddly excited for this UFC card this weekend. So really looking forward to talking to Dave Ross. If he's got anything, I am ready to watch, ready to fire, and I need some really good opinions on UFC 324. I'm fired up.
I don't know how many opinions Mike Palm will have on UFC, but I know that there will be a party at Circa that maybe he can give us the lowdown on as well from that standpoint. And
or give me on
because
the list
I mentioned the NBA, you will. You're a very, very popular man. What can we say? We talk about Zach Cohen, though, talking NBA. Of course, you will give your 2 cents as well as Rivals Week rolls on. Rockets, Pistons, and Nuggets, Bucks, the 2 rivalry games of the day. And you went off on Giannis yesterday. Will Zach do the same for us today?
I think he agrees with me. I brought this up to him on Harvard Handicappers yesterday, so we'll see. But listening to Harvard Handicappers this morning, get it wherever you get your podcasts, I would venture a guess that I think Zach thinks the Bucks are in a good spot today, and I would agree. So we'll see what Zach says when he joins us in a little bit.
And then, of course, let's not bury the lead. Championship Sunday, just a couple days away. We will give our final thoughts ahead of the weekend. Patriots, Broncos, Seahawks, Rams. Numbers seeming to settle in here a little bit. JVT, Pat's at that 4.5 consensus number. The total up from 40.5 to 42.5. And Seattle pretty steadily sat at that 2.5 point spread. The total down from 48.5, 6.5. We'll break down those practice reports as well.
Yeah, and I think that's expected for the most part. This is supposed to be the tightest part of the schedule, that and the Super Bowl. We shouldn't expect that much movement. We do have an injury that does cloud everything, but we will see as we get closer to kickoff with limits rising as well if we get any real movement. But I would expect that where we're at now is, for the most part, where we're going to be as we get closer to the start of these games, Stormy. So wouldn't expect anything crazy. Maybe you get some threes with some juice, but other than that, I would expect this is where we will be by the time these games begin.
See, that's interesting because that was a thought I had, not so much on the Rams-Seahawks game. I do feel like 2.5 is the right number, and there aren't like particularly strong enough opinions, at least that I have seen on from people across the nation, and then just from the betting standpoint, to sway it too much one way or another. If we did get to a 3, I feel like it would immediately come back down. However, in the Broncos game, I do wonder if, today's Friday. This is the first day where we start to see more of that public money. You mentioned the limits rising as we get closer to Sunday as well. If just from a narrative standpoint, people look from the outside looking in and are like, hey, I mean, Drake May has had an MVP caliber season. Broncos are without their starting quarterback. The Patriots defense has been as good as they are. Could that number get back out? We were at 5.5 for a while. It even peaked at 6 some places. Do you think maybe if there was to be movement, it would be this game?
Yeah, I think that would probably be it. I would also say, too, that you're probably going to get, if we do get movement, it's going to be like a 3 juiced to the dog side, right? So there's going to be a bunch, I'm talking about the other game as well, but it would make some sense that maybe this is going to be the game of the 2 that moves, considering everything that you threw out there. So we'll see exactly what happens. I mean, I don't know if I wouldn't be surprised entirely if we start to see the 4.5s disappear and turn into 4s either if we get some movement on this game, too. I know the expectation maybe is that the public sentiment will be that the Patriots will roll here, but I think that maybe there's a strong case to be made that this is a little too much. So we will see if the market sticks its flag in one side or the other. But as somebody who thinks this might be a little too much at 4.5, I'm going to be on the side of maybe this actually moves not the way we're thinking, but down to like 4 for the New England Patriots.
Okay, interesting. Well, we will, like I said, get plenty of opinions on this game with our guests throughout the course of the day. We'll preview them both at length, but we do have a handful of coaching items I wanted to get to, especially with one that just dropped in the last hour or so, JVT, with the news that Philip Rivers is reportedly a candidate for the Buffalo Bills head coaching gig. That kind of came out of left field for me, and obviously you as a Colts fan, and all the thoughts that you had about him coming back on the field this year. What do you make of him now potentially in the coaching ranks?
Well, is he a candidate or was he interviewed? Those are 2 very separate distinctions, I think, when you look at it. I would expect that you're probably turning over every rock possible if you're the Buffalo Bills. This is a very important job opening, Stormy. You have one of the best quarterbacks, some would argue the best quarterback in the National Football League right now, and it is rare when you can get a talent of that level. And so it is imperative that you go and you get the job done right. I would say that the way that the front office has handled itself in the firing of McDermott, they probably have a little bit of egg on their face with all of the clips that have surfaced about Beane and the way they've handled this. So you want to make sure that I think you're at least covering every single aspect of this. And remember, too, I still think that they're just waiting to see whether or not Davis Webb is going to be willing to take the job and when he becomes available. And in the meantime, you can't just do nothing, because I think if you do nothing, then you show your hand as to what you're waiting for. And then what if Davis Webb takes the Raiders job, for example? So I think that there's going to be something of some candidates thrown out there by some of these teams waiting for some of the coaches that are still in action right now. And I don't know if they're really serious candidates at that. But look, Philip Rivers, smart guy. He knows these offenses. I think he'd be a pretty good head coach for the most part. But you were wringing your hands, clutching your pearls over Davis Webb because he is a position guy. Now all of a sudden we're getting high school quarterback who started just a couple of weeks ago quarterback in here to be a head coach.
It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. And, like, at least Davis Webb, you know, from the coaching standpoint, that he is considered one of these bright young minds that is on the rise, and he's inevitably, you would imagine, going to get to that point, just a matter of when. But plus 450, by the way, what his odds were on FanDuel when we discussed this. Brian Daboll is still your favorite, but Philip Rivers entering the chat as a high school coach and, you know, retread quarterback. Did not have that on my bingo card, to say the least, when we were initially rolling in here today. Meanwhile, JVT, we do have, actually real quick before we move on from that, I forgot. Did you see this petition for people that are just trying to get Sean McDermott back? It's up to like 40,000 plus people that have signed this petition saying, why did you do this to us?
Waste of time, and now you have your signature on record somewhere. It's obviously not going to happen. I believe the Mavericks, eventually it was...
So, wait, hold on.
Go ahead.
So do you'll never sign a petition, Ben? Is that what you're saying? Like if you're at the grocery store and somebody's fighting for something good in town, you won't sign it?
Well, okay, so this opens a can of worms that I think that you might take too far. I do sign those almost every time. I use a fake signature, and then I use my stepfather and / mother's address.
Jonathan, no.
They won't leave me alone.
That is, you got to be better than that. Come on, man.
Some of them are so ridiculous,
too. Now
Some
you're just forcing them to get spam mail.
I think there was one that was like, you know, bring back smoking at restaurants or something. I was like, hell yeah, dude. And then I signed my stepfather's name and then gave them their phone number. So
that actually sounds like something you would be on board with. Neither here nor there. So we do have 5 vacancies in the head coaching ranks officially filled, the newest of which yesterday we saw the news come down that the Ravens have hired Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter, signed him to a 5-year deal. Minter was the favorite for the Ravens job when the odds opened, anywhere between like plus 135 plus 250, those prices. He is a disciple of the Harbaugh brothers. His job in the NFL was with the Ravens as a defensive assistant DBs coach under John at the Ravens. Most recently, of course, working under Jim at both the Chargers and Michigan. What did you make of the hiring when you saw it come down?
I mean, it's pretty interesting, the ties to the former regime. If you're moving on, why just kind of stay with the tree, I guess? You know what I'm saying? But I think at the end of the day, he's probably a pretty solid candidate. Look, for any of these coaches, especially the new ones, I guess, sure, Jeff Hafley, he might be a good hire. He might not be. We have no idea how these things are going to work out. You can have a general sentiment of what you're going to think about these. So I'll say, sure, if Lamar Jackson's happy and you think that you've got your guy, I think it makes some sense. And I think it makes some sense, too, when you look at the failings of the Baltimore Ravens this last year. I think many of us, obviously myself included, I had this team rated as the best team in the National Football League at the beginning of the year, and they failed miserably, especially at the beginning of the season. Some of it was injury, but their defense wasn't good, Stormy. So maybe to get a little bit more of that side of the football tacked down and then hiring an offensive staff you trust for Lamar that he'll enjoy will maybe turn things around here for you if you're Baltimore.
Minter did also interview for Vegas, Atlanta, Cleveland. Actually was supposed to have a meeting with the Browns yesterday, canceled when Baltimore locked him in. Had the Chargers this season 5th in yards allowed, 9th in points allowed. Last year, 11th in yards, 1st in points. See what he can do in this spot with the Ravens. They now, on the Charger side of this thing, have 2 coordinators that are going to be new going into next season. Mike McDaniel, of course, takes over as offensive coordinator, and now they have a DC vacancy. But Mike McDaniel even, too, I mean, he was another one of those interviews with the Bills today, according to reports. So a lot still to be decided. We mentioned 5 of those head coaching gigs locked up now, 5 still to be determined, along with Buffalo, the Steelers, Browns, Cardinals, and Raiders, all still trying to figure out who their next head guy will be. Okay, we are hitting the hardwood next. JVT's Clippers got the win over LA. They're just 1 win away from making a fan literally eat his words, plus another L for Dub City. Is this the Warriors' new normal without Jimmy Butler? We'll hit it all when we come back.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We are rolling along on this Friday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you, and I got to give you a congrats to the Clip. Stickers last night, 112-104. Kawhi was back. He's doing great. And the most important element of this, I would argue, is the text you sent me last night that one fan, a Robert Flom, at Rich Homie Flom, great name, by the way, in an exchange on Twitter said if the Clippers go 15-3 in any stretch this season, he would print and eat the tweet. 1 win away, my man.
Yep,
1 win away.
14-3 right now in their last 17 games, and they have the Brooklyn Nets at home coming up next. So this seems like a very good opportunity to get this guy to eat this piece of paper, which I'm sure he won't do, but who knows, maybe he will. But I will say, big picture, and our buddy Zach Cohen hit this on the Harvard Handicappers podcast earlier today, and we hit on this a little bit yesterday. Look, anytime the Lakers are in a situation where it's positive, the market really freaks out. I think that when you look at this from the perspective of the Clippers and the Lakers, they are very much the Lakers, a team that is fading, and the Clippers are a team that is ascending. And I think the Lakers are a team worth playing against consistently. Congratulations on the 2-game win streak. That's fine. But when you look at this team defensively, they have a lot of issues. Yes, they almost came back yesterday, but ultimately the Clippers held them at bay and ended up winning by 8. I think this team has a ton of problems, and they're a team the market is too high on. Remember, Story, when we talked about this yesterday, they were slight road favorites, the Lakers. They only closed as 2.5-point dogs in L.A., and then all of a sudden this Clippers team holds them at arm's length the entire way. So I think that's the takeaway. Look, the Clippers are legitimately good. I will say again, they're worth playing to make the playoffs, anything that's not a minus price. But I also think this Lakers team has some really big issues that are going to continue to transpire over the course of the year.
Yeah, it does feel like, to your point, as you mentioned, two teams that are just trending in different directions right now. Lakers 3-6, their last 9, 7-10 since last losing to the Clippers, and that's what kind of began this whole run for the other LA team. Again, we mentioned that 14-3 stretch, 13-4 ATS in that time. They look like a completely different group. I also saw a lot of people mentioning that this all started clicking after Chris Paul, after moving on from him. Did you have any opinion on that?
No, I'm sorry. So what was this?
The Clippers are 15-8 since dismissing Chris Paul.
Oh, okay. Nah, I mean, I don't really think so. I think that this team has always been a team that has been playing under their level of talent, regardless of whether or not they were mad that Chris Paul kept holding them accountable or yelling at them in practice and whatnot, which I tend to do to you guys every once in a while. You know, I yell at you, I get mad, but that's the whole point. You know what I mean? You got to have somebody to steer the ship. By the way, I will say, I know you've been busy this morning. Kawhi Leonard does do that. Did you watch the clip I sent you? There was a sequence last night where Kawhi gets hit with a pretty solid screen, and so he has to switch, and he yells at Zubac to get his man. Zubac isn't paying attention, gives up an easy dunk at the basket. Kawhi grabs the ball, slams it on the floor, and screams, "You're not paying attention. You're not doing bleep." So, look, there is some leadership here. Kawhi doesn't outwardly show it all the time. But I brought this up to Zach yesterday, Stormy, to the point of this Clippers team again, kind of tying in the Chris Paul angle. I think there is some sort of aspect of Kawhi right now kind of leaking out where he's almost sick of what's been happening. He's had his own knee issues. He's missed a lot of games. He's been a little bit more vocal this year. You know, I watch a lot of the post-game pressers and stuff like that. He's kind of shown a few more cracks in the armor, if you will, in terms of emotion, dropping expletives or just being a little bit more human. And I think that that's part of what we've seen here for this Clippers team. I think he understands that this season at the beginning was a microcosm of what this whole entire experiment has been. A massive disappointment for a team that is much more talented than what they've shown. And I think they're starting to finally put it together. I don't think this means they're going to win the finals, but I do think that if they're a 7 seed and you're a 2 seed, I don't think you want that series because it's just going to be a slugfest for you should you move on to the next round.
Since December 30th, the Clippers are limiting opponents to 108 points per game, third in the NBA, also allowing the third fewest threes in that time. Last night, the 20th time they've held an opponent below 110. Only OKC, Boston, and Phoenix have more. So this is a Clippers team that is trending up. Meanwhile, we talked about the Warriors yesterday and kind of what this looks like without Jimmy Butler. They are a 6.5-point favorite last night against Dallas, lose outright, second straight loss since the Butler torn ACL. And it's another game also that got away from Golden State following a Draymond Green disruption. He picked up his third flagrant of the season when it was a 1-point game with about 6.5 minutes to go. Mavs go on an 11-0 run right after, spoiling what could have been a good night, like Steph Curry, 38 points in this one that kind of goes to the wayside.
Yeah, 38 points, but in his minutes on the floor, they were outscored by about 24. So, look, this team is going to be in, I think, a really tough situation as we move forward here. Last night, and this speaks to what we hit on yesterday, they are hurting for shot creation. You look at some of the shot attempts for some of these players. Brandon Podziemski had 13 shot attempts yesterday. D'Anthony Melton was a fine player throughout his career, but a little bit longer in the tooth. He had to take 15. Stormy, they're going to be desperate for some sort of offense that is not named Stephen Curry as they move forward, and I just don't know where they get it. And even last night, as you're talking about, not only do they lose a game in which Steph Curry scores 38, their offensive rating was 107.5. That's good for the 25th percentile. That's a garbage offensive rating. This team is going to have a ton of issues, and I think you mentioned one of the most important parts. Again, I know we're betting and analysts, and we have to talk about numbers and whatnot. There is a non-data aspect to sports. Is Draymond going to hold it together as we move forward into a season that might seem lost? Because that's going to be part of it as well. And if we could play this was Steph yesterday. Listen to how dejected he sounds. He says with confidence that if he's out there, they have a chance, but it doesn't sound like it.
As long as I'm out there, I'm always confident we can win. So it's how I play. It's how we want to play. And until proven otherwise, you have to carry that mentality. That's just what this league requires. It's not really fair to try to project too far down the road because we have work to do right now to answer the call of what this team, without Jimmy, needs to do to win.
I mean, that's a defeated dude right there.
That didn't sound good. Go for it.
I was going to say, that's a defeated dude right there, man. Like, that's a team that doesn't really have that much. So I think when you look at what this team's going to be moving forward, unless you get a real power rating adjustment, they got bet up last night. I don't know if you noticed that. They closed at 6.5. If the market's going to continue to do that with this team, they're worth playing against.
Okay. Meanwhile, how about those Hornets? The win-o-meter, put it up there. We get to keep bumping it up here. Nice second half of a back-to-back, the win over Orlando. Orlando's largest loss of the season, by the way. Meanwhile, for Buzz City, fourth win by 25 or more, tying their most in a season in franchise history. That did surprise me a bit. 3 of those 4, though, have come this month, JVT, during which they have a plus 10.3 points per game differential, tied with the Pistons for the second highest in the month, trailing only OKC. So we talk about this team being one that is trending up as they have their 3 guys when they're on the court together. It's a nice look when they can put it together.
Yes, it is. Now, it's funny you bring that up because we were texting about this in the Harvard Handicappers group chat today. That net rating is very much a symptom of them blowing out the Utah Jazz that night. Remember that. So that's going to be something that is going to skew the numbers a little bit. Because if you look at the teams around them with similar net ratings over the same stretch, they're all like 8-2, 7-3, and yet the Hornets are there with a 500 record. So just keep that in mind. But either way, this team is very, very good in comparison to what their reputation is at this point right now. But if we could, I wanted to focus on the Magic because we talk a lot about this Hornets team. We've covered them quite well. But this Magic team now 11-12 straight up in their last 23 games. Storm within 6-17 ATS. They've been awful since December 1st. They failed to cover by nearly 7 points per 100 possessions. And you're very good at this. You go out, you interview these athletes, you talk to them. I want to play these 2 for you. Let's start with Banchero yesterday, asking about the frustration of being an on-ball player and what the disconnect is with him and his teammates.
Yeah, I mean, it's on everybody. It's on me. It's on everyone on the team, coaches. We gotta be on the same page. It sucks that I'm saying that in January, but that's the reality. I don't think we've been on the same page much this year. And I just think it's shown up with the way we've played, shown up with the inconsistencies throughout the season, and it's frustrating. Guys in the locker room, they want to win, but like I said, you can't just say you want to win without doing anything to make it happen.
I think the crazy part about this is it's obviously an eye-opening comment. We haven't been on the same page since January, and it's January. We shouldn't be doing this. I want to play one more for you here. Listen to what he says here because he's asked, and this is the setup. Well, last year and the year before, you guys were pretty good and on the same page, and he actually argues with that, Stormy.
I think it's really similar to the past couple seasons if you really look at it. Last year wasn't a great season. We had tough times. A lot of bad losses last year. Year before, we won 47 games, probably our best year. But I think it's something that's occurred, over and over again the last few seasons. So, I think we just got to figure out a way to put it into it. And, if we want to be a contender or whatever you want to call it, a team that's going to play deep into the playoffs, we gotta go out there and be different. We can't just stay the same. And, right now it feels like we have the same issues as the past. And now our defense is slipping, which makes it look worse.
Makes it look a lot worse. They have not been the same defensive team, and that's what's carried them for a really long time. Not very exciting to watch this Magic team, but very exciting, by the way, to watch some of the most memorable sports betting moments from last year. Stormy, how about this? If you love the moments that make sports betting unforgettable, don't miss the top 10 most memorable sports betting moments of 2025, hosted by Tim Murray, Tuesday, January 27th, 1 p.m. Eastern. Biggest swings, wildest finishes, most unforgettable tickets. Relive all the moments with Tim, Tuesday, 1 Eastern, only here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
And still maybe some potential marquee sports betting moments to come this weekend with conference championships upon us in the AFC and NFC. Our guy Will Hill has plays in both games. We will hit on it all coming up after this quick timeout here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Conference championship weekend is upon us as we welcome you back to Money Moves. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. Excited to have our buddy Will Hill join us here on the Progressive Guest Line. VSiN analyst, contributor, host of the Should Have Bet More podcast. You can also follow him on X at @TheWillHill. So much to get into here, Will. But I am curious with these 2 games in particular, was there one that immediately when you saw the number you had a little bit of conviction on? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, what's going on, guys? Good to be with you. I am seemingly like everybody else. I thought the Denver number was crazy. I think I put out a tweet right as it was clear that the Texans were not going to get it done. It was going to be New England versus Denver. I was thinking, what do you guys think the line would be? A lot of people said 2.5, anywhere between 2.5, 4.5. I thought 3. I thought 3.5 would be a lot. So I'm like everybody else. I think it's too many points. Nix is an average-ish quarterback. This is a monster adjustment. Maybe you could talk me into, all right, we're adjusting New England because the defense has played better, but what's that really worth? That being said, have you, and I haven't listened to everything this week, but I've listened to a lot. I've been a little bit of a depression following my Miami futures, not getting home and not hedging. So I've checked out a little bit Monday and Tuesday, but everyone seems to be on Denver. And I never think like that. I never think like, oh, everyone's on it, so it can't win. There's there's just some bias with that where sometimes everyone's on the same game and it wins and we forget about that. So I try not to think like that, but it does seem like everybody's on Denver. Worries me that everyone's on the dog, but we've talked about it in past weeks with New England. They've been very fortunate on fourth downs with what they've converted and what their opponents have, like 70% versus 30%, something crazy. Fumble recoveries, including Houston last week, which Will Anderson, great player, fall on a fumble. None of those guys could fall on a fumble. I think it's too many points. I like Denver. I like Denver to win the game. Peyton has done a good job in the past with backup quarterbacks. 2019 with the Saints did a good job with Bridgewater and Taysom Hill and cast of characters. So I like Denver. I'm a little worried everyone else is on it, but I do think this is a pretty egregious overreaction. But the line has been about where it is all week, slight movement down. So I'll be interested to see where this one closes.
Does it matter the reason why everybody's on a side? So I'll bring it back to the Broncos and the Bills and the Jags game. A lot of people, and I was among them, I think you were too, Will, it was, oh, Jags, dude, they're the best team in the AFC. They're going to go on to win the Super Bowl. It was an abundance of confidence. This is more, this might be a little much. I think we should just play the number here. There is a difference in a reason why. Does that matter to the gambling guys?
I don't know. I think it should. And just to go a little bit further here, it's probably, I think most people can agree, it's a couple points too high. There's no guarantee those couple points are going to manifest. Like if it were 3, we'd all be like, okay, that's about right. 2.5, it's about right. I mean, it's probably not going to land on 4. It can't land on 3.5. So there's not that many numbers in the middle. Just because you're getting a couple extra points, it's one game. Getting a couple extra points in one game doesn't, I mean, it's a one-game sample. It doesn't mean it's going to come to fruition. Doesn't mean those extra points are going to manifest, even if we do feel like we're getting extra points. But you bring up a good point. I think the people that like Denver, you're playing the number, and you know what? I think more times than not, you're going to be right. But we're not going to play this game 100 times. We're going to play it one time. We're going to get one result from it. But I have a hard time seeing sharp bettors, a sharp group, come in and lay New England and justify that there's value with a good home field in Denver that's probably worth 2 points. Basically saying New England is 6.5, 7 points better on a neutral field than this Denver team. I don't buy it. And I'll go back to one thing. Maybe you guys remember this. I'm trying to think of the timeline of when you guys worked with Lombardi, our old colleague, now UNC GM. It's right around COVID when Brady signed with the Bucs. Stidham was possibly going to be the quarterback for the Patriots. And Lombardi talked about how he was one of the best recruits in high school going into college, had a little bit of a disappointing career. Now, I know it's high school, it's the NFL, maybe it doesn't matter, but it's not like they're picking a fan out of the stands here to play this game. This guy comes in with some pedigree. He's played before. He's played okay before. So everyone seems to think he's going to play pretty well, but I seem to be with the everyone's here.
Yep.
I know you don't have a play on the total in this game, but there was a prop that you were looking at for Demario Douglas. What lent you that direction for the Pats receiver?
Pop Douglas. I don't know how he got the nickname Pop. Pop seems like a pretty cool nickname. I like the overs. He's usually, and last I checked, he wasn't listed, which they got a bunch of these up, but he wasn't up there. He's usually in the high teens, low 20s. I've actually played him a few times, looked at what he is week to week. I just think from a matchup standpoint, Surtain probably follows Booty and or Diggs, which maybe frees up Douglas. Douglas had the really good catch last week, 4th and 1. Ball got tipped. He caught it, which that never happens. When a ball's tipped, you tip that late, and you still catch it for a touchdown. But scored the first touchdown last week, got targeted in the red zone the week before. You can look at his numbers, saying he only gets 2-3 plus targets or so a week, but he was dealing with a hamstring injury late in the year. I just think based on the matchup, little healthier, been targeted in the red zone. If you're looking for like a long shot first touchdown score bet in that 22, 25 to 1 range, I don't think that's bad, but 18.5, 21.5 in that range, I think he gets a few targets. He gets some deeper targets, so I think he might be a good look here for over receiving yards.
This is right up Stormy's alley. She'll like this. The name Pop comes from his family. His grandfather passed away on his first birthday, and his grandfather used to refer to him as Papa. So the nickname then got shortened to Pop because they didn't want to call a little kid Papa. So Pop Douglas is where the nickname comes from. How about that?
That's very sweet.
See, there you go. I figured you like
I'll
it.
accept it.
All right, I'm going to steal Stormy's question that she asked to me because I think it's a good one. Don't tell her I gave her a compliment. Of these two games, Broncos and Patriots, Seahawks and Rams, which is the one that you think moves and moves the most?
That is a good question. So moves from now until the kickoff, is that what we're asking? I think they're both stay about the same. I can't see the Rams, Seahawks. The 3 was too much. We're not going to go to like a pick 'em. I think they're both going to. I think the Broncos, Patriots could come down even more. I wouldn't be shocked. Boy, 3 would be an adjustment to go from 6 to 3 in a title game would be an adjustment. And there were some 6s out there. I know offshore. I didn't check every book, but I know 6 was out there. I just can't see Rams, Seahawks moving. So almost by default, I would say Broncos and Patriots. Maybe it ticks down and it closes 3.5. I wouldn't. You wouldn't shock me. I wouldn't fall over if this one closes 3.5. I think Rams, Seahawks is about where it should be.
I about fell over just now with a sneeze, so forgive me, ladies and gentlemen, for anyone who could hear that. Let's dive deeper into that Rams Seahawks game though, because I haven't heard a lot of people really make the argument on the Rams side. I think most of this has come from the Seattle Seahawks side of this, especially after the dominant win they had against the 49ers. They're favorites to win the Super Bowl right now, but you do like taking those points with LA. Why?
I do. It wasn't that long ago, at the end of the season, Rams are up 16 without Adams, without key offensive lineman, Lake on defense. They're up 16 in the fourth quarter. If they win that game and going into that game, the Rams are viewed as the better team, even if it's slightly better. You can make the case, these teams are equal. Now, all things are not equal. Seahawks had a bye. Seahawks basically had a second bye against the 49ers. The Rams have been fighting to the death on the road against the Panthers, on the road against the Bears. So the spot, in terms of being fresh, I understand for Seattle, but I just think these teams are about even. If you made the argument the Rams are a touch better, I don't think that's crazy. They'll have Adams this time around. They'll be healthier this time around. In a close game, do you trust Darnold versus Stafford? I would still take Stafford. We're all going to assume Darnold's okay with the oblique injury. Maybe he is, but is there a 10 or 20% chance that he's hurt or he re-injures it? I think that's possible. I could only look towards taking the points here with the Rams. It's a great teaser leg. The problem is the Hall of Fame game's not up. There's nothing to tease it with. I mean, there's nothing. You want to tease the Broncos up, I guess. That's not a perfect long teaser. I mean,
That's
I
what
guess you could tease both dogs, but Rams are a good teaser leg. It's just not that ideal teaser leg. But I can understand Broncos, Patriots, low total. You are going through 7.5, 10.5. Not the worst idea.
Yeah, I think it makes some sense.
It's not the sexiest teaser in the world, JVT, but I couldn't help myself.
I mean, I think it makes some sense. You get up to 10.5, or you got 11.5. I think you teased it up when it was, 5.5. So I would, as somebody who thinks 4.5 has value, then I would tend to agree. All right, so how are you handling Darnold, Will? Stormy and I actually share a play in the way we're handling it. We went under pass attempts. I think you're going in a different direction.
Under rushing yards, it's 5.5. It's low. All it takes is one scramble where he gets a little daylight and then you're going to lose. But he ran 0 times for 0 yards last week. 0 and 0 is it will get you under here. So he didn't run the ball at all. Remember, kneel downs count towards negative yardage. The last time he had double-digit rushing yards was back on December 7th against the Falcons. So even before the injury, he hasn't been running as much. I think it's just natural nursing, even if it's a minor injury with the oblique. I think will be protective. So I am playing under rush yards, even though it is a low attempt, a low number. And usually in these playoffs, playing these quarterbacks over rushing yards when everything's on the line, they put their head down and tuck it and run instead of throwing out of bounds. Usually the overs are good play, but this is one with a somewhat banged up quarterback and a quarterback that hasn't been running a lot lately anyway. I do like the under.
I wonder if that's a similar thing even for Jarrett Stidham, though, because he's not as mobile as Bo Nix, and I'm sure given the depth that they have at quarterback, they're probably not going to want to risk him getting hit too much. I wonder if that's another quarterback under rushing that could be worth a look.
Yeah, I'll be fascinated to see how Peyton plays it because on one hand, you don't want to pull a C.J. Stroud, and Herbert was bad a couple. You don't want, with a pretty good home field running game defense, you don't want your backup quarterback to lose it, but you also don't want to handcuff him. So I actually think Peyton with Stidham will be pretty much aggressive, but will he be running the ball? That's a good point. I'm not sure he will.
Okay, interesting. It's going to be a great weekend. Will, as always, thank you so much for the time, buddy. We appreciate you.
All right, see you. Thanks for having me.
Will Hill, everybody, if you haven't already, make sure you follow him on X at @NotTheWillHill. And of course, download, subscribe, rate 5 stars, all the things. Should Have Bet More podcast does an awesome job there. And make sure that it's locked in the feed each and every day. We got to step aside here real quickly, but still so much more to come on Money Moves. We will have Mike Palm join the program, Zach Cohen as well, Dave Ross breaking down the UFC. We are loaded for the next hour plus. So keep it locked right here, back on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network after this.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, we are cruising here on this Friday edition of Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Sirius XM Channel 158, Stormy Bonatoni, Jonathan Von Tobel with you. JVT's out there in Vegas at the D. A little different scenery around today. Meanwhile, I'm out here in Lubbock, Texas, but you have pretty clear view of the Derby game at the D, right?
The Derby game, a Sigma Derby. Thank you very much. One of the greatest inventions of all time, in which every single year on my birthday, I come out and waste all my money on. Absolutely a tremendous thing. So yes, the Sigma Derby is fantastic. Usually you hear screams of joy and pain almost the whole time. I mean, as you saw that camera shot there, there's a lot of people here. A majority of them are gathered around that Sigma Derby playing. That is,
yeah.
You know what? Palm's going to join us here in a little bit. I would love to ask how much business that thing does, because I'm assuming it does a ton. Because don't quote me on this. I think this might be the only Sigma Derby in town, or like one of two, maybe, or something like that.
It's the only one that still does it that way,
with
right?
coins,
like
yes.
where it's the old school. Yes.
Yeah.
But I know like it's a staple, and I know people that come in town to visit and are doing stuff, and when they come over to Circa to hang out, they're always like, "Oh, we need to go over." So,
yeah.
I mean, people know about it, which is pretty cool, and they want to go play, and it's fun, and it's different from what all the normal new type of games look like.
Yeah.
So, I love that it's packed already right now.
To your point, for our audience, there is like newer, I don't know what they're called, but like there's newer electronic ones. There's one across the way in the plaza, I think, or something like that. So I've gone and played that too. But yeah, I mean, you can't get me when it comes to normal horse racing for some reason, but you can get me with the weird plastic horses running around in a glass box. I'm totally down with it.
I don't know. We got to get you on the real horse racing too. Maybe we'll do a VSiN Money Moves Del Mar trip this summer or something like that, because it's good time.
That will be free.
I'm down. Let's go.
Yeah.
That said, I know we do have things that we can bet right now, which includes plenty of college basketball. There are a handful of games I know that interested you today. Obviously, we've got a huge card with a bunch of nationally ranked teams in action coming up tomorrow as well. But looking through today first, at least real quickly, anything that you did fire on, or a game that really piqued your curiosity that you're thinking about?
Yeah, I mean, selfishly, as our audience probably knows at this point, they do like Mountain West basketball. But this is a pretty fascinating game. So let's go out to Utah State, Colorado State tonight. It's a 7 p.m. tip. It is an interesting game for many different reasons, including the fact that Utah State, which had gotten off to a 15-1 start, has now lost 2 straight, including one as a 17.5-point favorite at open. It closed about 16.5 or so against UNLV. They lost by 10 in that matchup to the Runnin' Rebels, and now you're taking on Colorado State. Rams are a team that I think a lot of people have been relatively high on for the most part, despite the fact that the results haven't really been there, Stormy. It's one from a power rating standpoint that I haven't really gotten a good gauge on, but I don't think the Rams are particularly great. I think that there was a lot of people that thought they were going to be very good, but that has not really transpired. What has really bothered them, too, has been their defense. 110 or 115.2 adjusted defensive rating in conference play. They're a very slow-paced team, very reliant on three-point shooting. They take over 47% of their attempts from beyond the arc. They shoot 35%, which is very, very good clip considering the volume. But outside of that, there's not really a lot that you're looking at that you're brimming with confidence here with Colorado State. I kind of want to buy low here a little bit on the Aggies. We saw this open 3.5. It's up to 4.5. I think 4.5's a little short. We're starting to see a 5 a pop on the screen as well. I wouldn't be surprised if we close a little bit higher here. This might be the time to buy low on the Aggies. You see the ATS record, despite the fact that they have played so well, their ATS record is not particularly great because they have been overvalued. But this might be the time, coming off of a big loss against UNLV, to buy them a little cheap here, getting away from home. So, like Utah State to bounce back tonight against Colorado State.
Yeah, they are getting rowdy over there. We just heard a cheer a moment ago. I'm assuming that's from the Sigma Derby. Let's go.
This is, I will say, it distracts me because, so I come up in radio. We do remotes where you just go around town and you do live shows from different places. I am a man of the people, and I would very much like to get over there. Maybe that is where my funds will go after the show.
We have our longest of the show coming up in the next segment, so I have a feeling you might be disconnecting. Let's stick with the theme of West basketball, though, because you and I are at odds coming up tomorrow night in the M-Dub. San Diego State, UNLV going head-to-head. I know the actual spread isn't out there and available for this game yet, but you were looking at some of the KenPom stuff. Hit us what that number is and if you agree with where it's put.
Yeah, so right now, some of the KenPom projections, it depends on where you're looking and what you're hunting around for. But KenPom, obviously the one projection system that a lot of people like to refer to, has UNLV catching about 6 at home. If you go check out Bartorvik, he's got this at 3.94. So to your point about, because this is what we were talking about during the break, if it opens up about 6.5, which is what my guess was, I think I said 7.5, I think that would be a play on UNLV. I would tend to agree a little bit more with Bartorvik's rating here for the Rebels taking on San Diego State. Look, UNLV is a very solid defensive team, so I'm going to be curious to see how they match up here with San Diego State. But one of the things that has failed the Rebels is their offense. And in conference play, Stormy, they're starting to shoot pretty well. Shooting 38% from beyond the arc against conference opponents. They don't shoot a ton, but they shoot them relatively well at a high clip. They don't turn the ball over a ton, and they actually force quite a few turnovers. And their front court's pretty solid defensively. I think that if we're talking in the range of like the KenPom number, 6.5, I think that's going to be a play on. I think Haslam Extras has this a little bit more tight with where this thing should be. And for your Aztecs, I mean, we'll see what it means coming off of a controversial loss on the road against Grand Canyon. For those who missed it, even I would agree, even though we needed the Lopes to win that game, a very soft foul at the end that put them on the line for 2, and they hit them. Aztecs have to hit their free throws too. If they do, it's a tie game instead of a 1-point loss. But either way, you're talking about a really tough situation. Back-to-back road games, tough spot against Grand Canyon. Now you got to go out to UNLV. I would call it a rivalry spot, but nobody's going to show up for the game. So I think the Runnin' Rebel program feels stronger about this than maybe you'll actually see in the building. But you might get a pretty good environment. A lot of people out here don't like San Diego State.
It was funny at the end of the Grand Canyon game, seeing some of the headlines that came out of it. Like there was late foul call, free throws sink, SDSU. And then you see like the Grand Canyon one and it's like clutch win, Titans race in the Mountain West. And it's always like funny to see how the two sides presented it. I do want to talk at least briefly here about the game that I'm going to be working tomorrow night. And I was looking at the number that is available because they do have some of these, nationally ranked games with the early lines put out. And Houston's laying 3.5 on the road here at Texas Tech at United Supermarkets Arena. The total 139.5. Houston did win the first meeting earlier this month. It was like almost the entire game being played within 4 points, and that's where it landed, 69-65. The final Texas Tech covered, though, as 7.5-point dogs in that game. This is... I'm curious, speaking of environment, what it's going to be like at Texas Tech tomorrow because of this winter storm that's rolling in. They did move up the tip time from 5:30 local time to 1 o'clock to make it at least a little bit easier, hopefully, for people to get here and leave safely. And this is an environment that typically has been awesome for Texas Tech. They've been great at home this season. Any early thoughts for you on this one? I mean, I can give my breakdown, obviously, but curious if you had any opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for Houston, this is a team that is, I think, starting to play some really good basketball. Obviously, their last 2 games, they blow out Arizona State, they blow out West Virginia. They have a couple of games, and actually we can go back to the Baylor game as well. They play Texas Tech at home. It's a tight one, but they get it. At one point, Stormy, if you float around the time where they were taking on like Notre Dame, Florida State, in that kind of realm, there was a couple of games, Middle Tennessee, where they weren't looking as impressive. They played Cincinnati, and they only win by 7. If you look, though, in their recent form, Houston was downright dominant. An offensive rating of 126.3, limiting opponents just 0.9 points per possession. I think Texas Tech's going to be in for a tough one here. Our guy Adam Burke talked about this the other day when you can sort through the different statistics against top-tier competition, and Texas Tech has been a little bit more mortal statistically than Houston has. I think this Cougars team really starting to round into form, and I think they're going to have a good pop here for the Red Raiders.
And a little bit more depth, too, than Texas Tech, who, like, their 5 guys are their 5 guys. And Christian Anderson and JT Toppin, like, really don't come off the court very much, especially Anderson. He's averaging second most minutes of anybody in all of college basketball this year. But I can't help but go back to the end of that game when they first met not too long ago. Texas Tech was actually up 4 with 3.5 minutes to go, tied with less than 2 minutes to play. And then Kingston Flemings, that awesome freshman for Houston, scores 9 of his 23 points in the last 2 minutes or so to secure the win. And Grant McCaslin this morning, when we were talking to him, said he regretted the way that they defended Kingston in those moments, that they shouldn't have let off him and pushed harder. And so I think that they're going to try to defend him in a different way. I think Juwan Watts is someone too, at least in the way that, I've heard him be discussed in his progress. He's getting more consistent. That was a game that he really didn't have a great performance. And it's like the games that he plays well, the whole team plays well, and the whole team wins. So what version of Juwan Watts are we going to get today, at least?
Yeah.
Seems like it'll be an important element of that game tomorrow.
The whole team wins, too, when they come over to your house and you have some fresh wings from Omaha Steaks, too. So if you're hosting some folks as well, maybe, as we get closer to Conference Championship weekend and you need some snacks and more, head over to omahasteaks.com. When you spend $129, you score 2 pounds of fully cooked chicken wings plus 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com/VSIN. Don't wait. Again, $129, 2 pounds of wings. Save 50% off site-wide on steaks and more. omahasteaks.com/VSIN. omahasteaks.com/VSIN. Minimum purchase required. See site for details. Stormy would argue that is an abnormal amount of wings to eat. I would say it's normal.